Hi everyone, welcome to the Bookover, a little book club where we talk about books, especially those ones that give us book hangovers. I'm Sarah and with me is Megan.
Hi.
And today we have a special guest, Vanessa.
Hi Vanessa, we're so happy you're here.
Thanks for having me.
We're so happy to have Vanessa here. If no one knows Vanessa, we're going to introduce her. She is a narrator, and we found her through some of our favorite books that we listened to her narrate in. And it's so fun to see her and not just hear her voice.
So used to her voice.
Right?
Like her many different voices, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just going to dive in and ask, how did you get into doing what you do?
So I have a background in musical theater. I was like the weird little kid talking to themselves constantly. So I started out in theater and then built up, and then I got a BFA in musical theater, and then I tried that for a while in New York City. And I started transitioning more and more into voiceover and found that it was so much more fun and so much more fulfilling. And I basically used all the training that I got anyway and transitioned into like a tiny little space instead of on a stage.
Are you at home? Do you have a little booth at home, or do you rent a place, or?
So I'm in here because the boys are out there watching the game and it's very loud and he's in his jumper. So my studio.
Aww.
And then this is my office area. And so it's a double walled thing with glass. Can you see?
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is where I sit in. It's a 3x5 booth.
Mm-hmm.
It's gets a little sweaty in there. But,
yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
That is actually really cool. Do you mind how does that work? Do you audition for a book, or do the authors reach out to you? Do you have you read a book and go I want to narrate this book for you?
Oh, I wish it worked that way. So I audition for books, but I also have, if authors that I've worked with a lot before say, oh my gosh, I just wrote a series that I would love to have you narrate. We also work that way as well. But a lot of times here's an audition, especially if it's a new client, a new author, a new publisher. So yeah, it's definitely a mixture of what you just described.
Okay.
The part where I read a book and I'm like, can I please narrate it?
Right. Well, I mean, so when you get say they're okay, you're hired, we want you to narrate this book, then do you read the book? Okay. And then you ask any questions you have about it, and then you record it.
Yeah, so it's almost it's it's a production. So we have a pre-production. Me has a pre-production process. So I get the manuscript and I highlight all the different colors on my iPad of all the different characters. I notate any accents or any specifics, especially in the dialogue, he growled, she cried, he screamed, so that when I'm reading, it can be more fluid and I don't have to stop and start as much. And then if there's weird pronunciations, if we're in a fantasy land, then I'll create a list of those. And then what happens after that is I put together a pre-production email. These are for my indie authors because usually publishing companies, you work with a director and they kind of trust you to make your own voices. But I give them character samples and then the fun begins and we kind of work together and they say, actually, this is not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing more Liv Tyler and Lord of the Rings or whatever. And I'm like, okay. So then we just keep playing around with different voices until we kind of get to the point where they hear what they're hearing in their head when they're writing the book. And then I start recording.
Wow. I knew it was a production, but the redoing it, I guess I just didn't. I pictured you in a booth for hours and hours and hours, reading the things and reacting them out. But that's gotta be fun but frustrating.
It's definitely, it's more, I think it's more fun than frustrating. I think I can't be too attached to anything because like these authors have spent so much time with these characters and this story is their baby, right? And I'm just like a vessel. So I think it's an honor to read their stories. And so anything that they have to direct me in is really fun. I like collaborating and I like working together and trying out different voices, because for me, if somebody asks me to do something different, then I'm actually growing too as an artist and trying to create something different than I would have normally just done. So actually I really enjoy that part of the process. Yeah.
Has that helped you create so many different voices? Because listening to these books that you narrate, especially the ones where it's just you narrating, I mean, the amount of, you know, I can tell it's this character speaking and this character speaking. It's insane. I mean, and like going from book to book, I'm like, wait, is this Vanessa? It is Vanessa. Like, it's just very impressive. Like your range of voice. How do you have so many different voices? Is it through working with the authors? Do you develop more? How do you do that?
Well, thanks. That's a super awesome thing to hear. So yeah, it is working with the authors, but a lot of it is mimicking people.
Really? I love that's interesting.
But yeah, I think like watching TV or I think a lot of voice actors have this like rep cast of characters that when you're watching or talking to somebody, you keep adding to. So somebody who has got like a really interesting and flat, I sound like a California girl. I am from California and I have to work pretty hard to like combat it when I'm talking. But like, that would be something that I'd be like, oh, okay, I can pick up that dialect. I know how to, yeah. So I think just like talking to, watching people, mimicking things a lot, and then writing it down. Because otherwise you forget a lot. Yeah. But casting, especially like
so I was gonna say, do you ever record the voices like in like a moment? Like you're like, oh, this is a good like inflection. Do you ever like record it on your phone?
No, like normally I just go right into the booth like the next day. So watching some, then I'm like, oh, I could cast this person that I just saw on TV in this, you know.
That's so cool.
So that helps. And then I create character samples off of all the characters, because when you do like 5 or 6 books a month, they get like really confusing.
Oh wow!
So I have to like keep it organized and record samples so that when I go to book 2 or book 3, they're like consistent. Hopefully,
does it cross over to like your personal life? Like, say you've been recording all day, and then you like go to dinner and you're with friends or family. Like, do you like if there's a character you really like, do you all of a sudden kind of start talking like them at dinner or anything? Like, is it hard sometimes to get out of that?
You know what? Maybe I don't. We'd have to ask my husband.
I've caught myself doing that when I hang out with like a one friend a lot more than like usual. Like I'll start doing like their hand movements or something, and I'm like, that's not me. Like, because you see it a lot, so I don't.
Right. Like when you adapt a word from a friend, like a friend group will use a certain word, and then all of a sudden you're using it. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's very. Yeah.
Gosh, I wish that I could talk as like most of those characters. Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of my favorite book series is the Hannaford Prep series by Jay Bree, and you did the audiobooks for it, and I was like, kind of moved me over to audiobooks, because I would listen to audiobooks when I was doing like mom book club, and I needed to just get the books done to get the story done so I could go to book club and say I read the story, and like they were okay, but like the Hannaford Prep ones, I was like, oh my gosh, like it just made the like story, hearing the different voices. And so, because I can't do different dialects and stuff. You should hear me try to say things in Spanish. It's really bad. So it's like, but like just like even like, like the mobster, like, like for Harley, you would like use like a certain, you're good at all the different characters. I really enjoyed it. Like, and so it's like moved me into actually enjoying audiobooks more, because like not all narrators do, how do I say this nice?
Awesome.
Do it like that, like so in depth. I feel like they could have like their man voice and their woman voice. This was like, I knew when, Illy was there, like it was, yeah. Sorry.
Made it come to life.
Thanks, guys. That's so cool. Well, her writing is amazing. So she gave great material to work with. It was such a fun story and really unique. Like, from what I normally read anyway. It was really fun. That's a really fun story. I wonder if she has another book coming out.
Maybe she does. Which one? For that series, or just in general? There's going to be a Vance Falling book coming out. Yeah, they're gonna the tour book.
Yeah, but I don't think it's written yet, right? I mean, it's not released yet.
It's not released yet, but it's on the list of the world.
Yeah,
that's so fun.
Yeah.
Huh. That's right, because they're
going
on
big fans or anything. Super big fan.
You're like, I know.
Like, my indie author love is showing. Is that something else too? Do you find yourself reading, I mean, because of your job, reading like books you never thought you would end up reading, like just experiencing so many different genres, I would imagine?
Yeah, I tend to go toward like, personally, like business, self-development, and then I really like nonfiction, and I really like thrillers and mystery, but my voice doesn't really lend themselves to those genres as much. So I definitely, I mean, I used to read fantasy and YA when I was younger, but like I don't think in my adult life I've really read a lot of it other than like Hunger Games maybe. But it's such a fun world, so that's the cool part about my job for sure, is that I get to like read about dragons and vampires and all these like fun places, magical realms and whatever that like normally I guess I wouldn't explore.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to remember if the first time that I listened to you was, I feel like it was Supernatural Academy. It was either one of the Jane and Eve books, or it was, oh my goodness, what's it? But Laurel Chase's Dragon series.
Oh yeah.
It was either one of those. I feel like it was the one with doing duet narration. With duet narration, how does that work? Do you record all your parts and then the male narrator comes in and it just gets pieced together, or do you guys like do that live?
I think sometimes in the olden days pre-pandemic, together, but like no, now we just like we read them and then we send them in. Like we don't even listen to each other's parts.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that difficult?
Incredible, and he or she pieces them together depending on who's working on the book. And it's like that's a grueling job, because you're literally pasting. I mean, Sarah, you edit, right? So how you have, that is sentence per sentence. It's like, man, positions for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
You kind of get tired of hearing the same thing over and over.
Right.
And it sounds it works so well, but I thought, they probably have to like, they must be doing like an audio play. This must be like they must be doing it together. So wow. I can only imagine the time that takes.
Yeah,
it's impressive.
It's pretty cool though. I kind of, those duet ones are really fun for me actually, because I don't know. And I don't know how other narrators feel about it, but they're really fun because going back and listening to them, you're like, oh, wow, that's so cool. That's what that character sounds like. Or we kind of have to agree on voices. So we'll upload our character samples and then, I'll try and do whatever, like they always these like really sexy voices. And I'm like, how am I going to do that? So I think it's more fun that way, because you don't have to imagine, me being a sexy ripped man. You can just like
I will say duet is my favorite because I feel like it really does make the books come to life. But I mean, you do an excellent job with the male voices as well. I mean, it's seriously, you're a fantastic narrator. I know it's hard to take a compliment. I know that. I understand that we're like showering with them, but it's the truth. Like, really bring it to life. Can I ask? I noticed, I think, is it Audio Sources? Do you work a lot with them? I've noticed that they do a lot of indie books and a lot of the books that we're really big fans of. And it seems to be like the same authors. And how did you get involved with them? I think, wasn't that narrator turned into the business? Is that how that worked?
Yeah. You know, they reached out and they said, I think maybe it was through Jamin.
Mm-hmm.
I think that she wanted to do a duet and they specialize in those, or they used to, I don't know, they still do. They do a great job of narration, but I think that maybe she requested me and she's working with them and that's how I got involved with them, I think. I don't know, because like the internet is like a black hole.
Like,
it's no longer like, come in for this audition or this interview, you know? But I'm pretty sure that's how I got involved, but they are an amazing production house to work with. They're so organized, so cool, and it's all female run. They're all like so it's super inspiring to work with all those ladies. They're awesome.
Oh, that's amazing. It seems like everything they put out is like an audiobook that I end up loving. So
yeah, they're great. They produce great stories for sure.
Or even like the trailers that they post. I think maybe you're the one that told me to start following her, and like just the trailers. Yeah. Like, oh, I need to read that book.
Those are cool. Yeah.
Suck you in already. Well, and there's just so many. We're very big indie author fans, so it's they do a lot of indie author work.
Yeah, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? There's so much untapped talent, undiscovered talent in there.
There really is. I think indie books kind of lend themselves to being able to do things that are new, storytellers that wouldn't normally get to tell their stories. It's amazing. And it's funny because actually Supernatural Academy, which you voiced, has become a TV show now. Although I know it's I know it's a little bit of a different storyline from another one of Jamin's books, but I think it's so cool and so interesting. Is that cool to be like, oh my gosh, it's a TV show now?
I know. And it looks so cool. It's on Peacock, right?
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. It looks so cool. Yeah. Talk about a dream, right? That you have this like empire of books that somehow also turns into like a TV series. It's so cool.
I have a feeling that's going to start happening more and more. So someone's going to keep seeing these indie authors and they're going to pop them right on to TV eventually.
Yeah.
The stories are too good.
That's they're so like witty and quippy. It's cool.
They are.
So I have a really, I don't know if it's a weird question. I don't know how to say this question. Basically, okay, a lot of our books are smutty books. So those sex scenes, are those weird to narrate? Like how, like, do you feel, because sometimes I've listened to like audiobooks where there's a sex scene and I'm like, okay, like you might as well just fade to black here, people. But like I don't know, like it's just like, is that like a hard one? Do you, like when you see that come up, you're like, okay, here's the scene, or like, I don't know.
I think I would say like the first 20 or 30 books, it took me a while to become like desensitized to it. I don't know if I'm like, obviously I'm like present and like trying to like do justice to the scene, but like you have to kind of get desensitized to like the words coming out of your mouth.
Right. Yeah.
Like I'm, Sarah, I'm sure you can relate to this. Like when you're pregnant and I'm like sitting here reading these words and I'm like, oh my God, I hope this kid can't hear anything. What's that? I know that like a 9-month pregnant woman is like saying this naughty Oh my God.
Naughty words.
That's super weird. And like sometimes if it gets like really graphic, I'll like pause and be like, huh, what am I reading?
Okay.
I know, I agree with you. We could totally just fade to black, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, don't fade to black. Don't fade. Please. I'm off. Keep going.
My car connects to my Bluetooth. And if I don't close, I have to like fully close like my audiobook app. Or else when I get in and start the car, I will start playing whatever audiobook it is. I have to be very careful with children. Because my books have a lot of naughty words in it.
Right.
So it's like, as a parent, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to make sure that I don't want them asking Mom, what is that? Like,
right. And you're like, well, in reverse.
I had to explain what that was to my husband, and that was awkward enough.
I love, at a red light, just to pump the volume up on mine, just for the reactions. I really enjoy it.
Oh,
it's fun. We driving in the city. They'll come out with the squeegees, and I'll just be like, "Let me just turn up this. I swear to you, let me just turn this scene up," and I get the most interesting stares, and I love it. They don't squeegee, and they don't squeegee my car. So there you go.
They don't want any business with that. No.
So there you go. Well, they're just like, what woman is this emboldened to have this, these words playing right now? Oh.
You're like, no, PG, thank you.
Basically.
It's there. So, I mean, because you've obviously you've done a lot of books. Is there like a favorite series or author where like when they come back you're like, yes, I definitely want to do this? Or are there like other ones? Yeah, like basically, is there like a favorite where you're like, I want to do more work for you? Or
yeah, and it's kind of, I definitely have like a list of authors that I am in love with, but I'm like, it's hard that am I in love? I can't like do the chicken or the egg thing because I love the author as like a person. And so I'm such a fan of their, like, I work with so many wonderful people that I've developed relationships with. And then when I read their books, I also love their books. So I'm like, is it because I love the person that I love their books? I don't know. Right. But yeah, there's definitely a long list of people that they're like, oh, are you available? And I'm like, yeah, for you, anything. For sure. I've become a huge.
It seems like certain authors that you repeatedly narrate for.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can just look at like my body work and you're like, oh, she's a fan.
I love that.
Basically.
That must be so fun. That must be so fun getting to flesh out the characters together. Yeah. And to really, like I said, like you really do. It's so coming as from a reader standpoint, a lot of the times you'll read the book first and then you get the audiobook and it's like, wow, it's having the book come to life and it's like getting to experience it in a completely different way. It's really amazing. Although originally I came into reading because of audiobooks. I started with audiobooks and then I couldn't wait. So then I went to reading them. But I think it's just so special what you do, how you take something that people love. I mean, people love rereading and bring it to life. And then you can bring it to people that might struggle with reading or it's just not for them. So yeah. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I feel to do it too. It's a pretty cool, it's definitely a really cool job. And I think it's an honor to keep alive the oral tradition. Obviously this is something that's been going on for thousands of years or as long as humans have been alive. And so I feel like really special to be a part of that community of passing down stories, however naughty they are. But yeah, I mean, I think there's like an element of escape in audiobooks that you also get when you're reading, but somehow when you like put in your headphones or blast it on your car, you're kind of in a different world. And I experienced that too, walking down the street, that whole walk takes a different color, a different tone. You see different things. It's pretty cool.
Is there something about like not having to, have the words in front of you, and like you said, at night, turn off all the lights, put your headphones in, and you really do feel like you're transported. It's a very special, different experience. It gives you what reading gives you, but just like on a different, I don't know, wavelength. So I agree. I love it. And so many people, they don't realize it until it's like you have to I'll send people audio subscriptions all the time, and they're like, oh my gosh, how did I never listen to an audiobook before? There's something really special.
Well, it's super intimate, like you mentioned before too. I have my favorite narrators that I'm addicted to, that I listen to constantly. And I mean, I feel like the way there's a trust, there's this weird relationship that you develop that they're gonna, I don't know. It's super interesting. A very it's personal, but not, because obviously we're so far removed from anyone else, and it's all email basically.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so insane. How many hours, totally random, but does it take for say a 300-page novel?
So we normally work in word count. So I do so if the book, a 300-page book, because it depends on the formatting of it. So say it's 30,000 words. I read 10,000 words about an hour. So 3 hours long. So yeah, you can kind of break it down by word count. How fast can you talk?
Yeah.
But of course, I mean, you still have all that pre-prep work too. So it's not, but
yeah. So
I'm a slow reader, so mine would take triple that. I'd be 9 hours to read that. I'd be yeah, I would not get hired.
So when you narrate, do you have to do you find yourself speaking at a certain speed? I mean, because as I'm an Audible customer, for example, you have your normal speed, you can slow it down, you can fast forward your voice, and you can sound like a chipmunk. So do you have to find is there a speed that you're supposed to read at, a baseline of or is it just something that comes naturally?
I think so. I think that but I started, and most of my work is with indie authors. But I noticed that a lot of narrators who are groomed from publishing houses, my cadence is more natural to me. And that's what I at and what I talk at. But I noticed that a lot of narrators who are raised up in publishing houses, they talk they're so specific and particular, and they enunciate everything so much better than me, and they talk slower, so I think it kind of just depends on who you're working with. Yeah, I do. But do you guys speed up your narration on your books?
It depends on the book. If it's a book I'm really enjoying, no. But if it's the other book club where it's a book that I just have to read so I can get it done and over with, then yeah.
I always keep my speed up a little bit. It's not to get it over with. It's the usual. I think it depends on the narrator, but usually it's just at a speed I'm not used to. It's just not my speed. It's a little slow for me.
I could do
so I tend to go to 130, between 130 and 150.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless there's something really complicated in the book that I'm not understanding, and I keep pushing back, and I'm okay, I just need to slow it down. I don't know. It's just I've talked to a lot of people who do. I'm in a lot of audio groups, and I think a lot of people tend to speed it up just a little bit, just because they're so used to reading faster and the way they process. I think it all depends on how your brain processes things.
Right. How kind of auditory listener. How well you develop that skill, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I had my cousin was in the car with me and listening once, and they're how do you listen to this so fast? I'm this this isn't bad. I'm like, this is actually very slow in my opinion. So I think it's definitely a matter of the person.
Well, I think it also matters if you've read it before too. Like if you know the book, then like you don't need it so slow. But if it's a new to you, I feel like I can see
needing it slower.
Yeah.
Like the book one of the series where you're introducing all the characters and yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's very interesting that so you pick your pace and it's your, natural. That's very interesting. So I was very curious about that. There was a couple other questions I had. I need to remember them. There were some good ones. Okay,
well, and I think like the way, because it's natural to you, I think that's what makes the narration so enjoyable to the listeners.
Yeah.
Because it is natural. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel fake. It's just like I always just picture, you see, images of like behind the scenes of like, whatever animation movie, you see the actors like acting it out. Like that's what I picture, is like someone there just like acting it out kind of, and that makes it
yeah, I agree.
Do you find yourself kind of acting things out when you're narrating a little bit? Like, are you using hand motions and getting like kind of into the scene? I know you said you have a theater background.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think that helps like the sound. I think it helps it sound more alive and more real. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I definitely use my hands a lot, not with like the naughty scenes.
Oh, that was a quick one. That was a good one.
Oh, I love it.
I love that not. Oh, that's funny. Now, I was going to say, now does your significant other listen to your narrations?
No, he doesn't. No.
Not once, not ever.
He like listens to the samples, and then he'll like, every time I'm like submitting something, it's like chapter 1, chapter 2. So like he always makes fun of me because he's like, that's like a drinking game. How many chapters are in this book? And then he's like 64, and I'm like, so close.
Oh, that's
fun.
Yeah, it's not really his genre to listen to in any way. I don't think he needs to hear that stuff. Some of it.
That's so funny. Oh, that's really funny.
Do you guys normally read the books before you listen to them?
Yeah. Most of the time.
Originally, I got into audio first, so I had listened to like every audio that was available first, and then like I begrudgingly got into reading because I'm dyslexic, so I like had a terrible like view of books. I thought of them as like, the enemy. They weren't for fun, and then so audio, like I just loved it, and I was like, well, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try reading, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I love reading. Mm-hmm. I'm missing out on a whole world my whole life because I just like had, bad stuff from childhood. So now it just is either or. It's like whatever comes first, or like whatever I see first. Like, I actually have all the Monsters series. I believe it are All the Pretty Monsters. It's one that you're narrating. It's like in my Audible library that I've never listened to before. That's like been on my list forever. So it just depends on like, where I see it first. And there's another one you just did. Oh gosh, with Eva Chance.
Yeah.
That's on my list. I haven't read that. That's going to be a listen to series for me.
It's the Chaos Crew series.
Yes, it's the new reverse harem. Yeah. Is that Duet? Like, I don't remember.
I don't think it's duet, but it's dual narration. So
gotcha.
So
that's
So he does the male chapters, and then I do the female.
Okay. See, also, that's like an example of that's on my list for audio. So for me, it just depends, like where it pops up first. But like for Hannaford, definitely like listen. That was like a listen, after. Well, that took a while for the audios to come out. So sorry, that was a long roundabout answer. Again, this is going to be edited. So.
Maybe. But yeah, I mean, and with me, it's gone back and forth now that I think about it. Because I was gonna go, we drove on like a little tiny road trip. It's like a 12-hour drive. So I got a bunch of audio new books.
That's a long drive.
Yeah, it is. It's a long drive. We drive through the night while the kids sleep.
Okay.
So our destination, we just drive up to Oregon, but like it's a long drive. So like that's, you get a couple of audiobooks for that, and you're set, usually, as long as it's good enough to keep you awake.
Right.
But yeah, so I guess I have done that a few times and tried new books out that way.
Okay. Do you or your significant other listen to the same books?
No. I've tried. I'm trying because I need someone to talk to. And that's the whole reason we do this podcast, because we want people to talk to about our books that aren't that normal buy at Barnes & Noble. But I guess you can buy some of that Barnes & Noble now. But, it's like it's not going to be on the Costco shelves either. So I want him to, just because I'll read a book and he'll get a quick summary of it just so I can tell him like, oh my gosh, this has happened. But like he doesn't know. I wish, kind of, but then kind of I don't, because I don't want him to get like any idea.
Before my ex and I broke up, I had just been getting him into reading some of this stuff. But that's not why we broke up. I promise you. But that's like a goal though. Like I would love to have a partner that would like listen to my books with me, or especially because you can, with audiobooks, you can listen together. I'd like that. That would be nice.
Yeah, but when you're with somebody for so long, like we've been, 11 years married. Mm-hmm. So that's 18 years together. Like on a long road trip, I just put my earbuds in. Like I don't need to talk to them.
Oh, not like a group thing. You're not listening to the book together.
No, I just have my AirPods in. I won't.
You don't engage.
Oh, okay. I'm like, if you're coming into my car, you're going to get to experience my books type of person. I'm like, oh, you want me to drive? Great. Let's introduce you to my favorite books. Let's go. Let's make a fan out of you.
Yeah. I'm sure that could happen. I'm sure it could happen if it wasn't for the kids and stuff on a road trip like that. I think I could probably convince them to like some of them.
I do have one last question. Do any of your friends listen to you? Do you like, is that weird for you? Or like, does anyone go, oh my gosh, I listened to you on
I have audio? Like friends. I have a couple of friends who've listened, but I don't know. I don't really know a lot of people, like you guys were saying. I don't know a lot of people who like listen to this genre for like, it's hard to find. Needle in a haystack.
It is. If it wasn't for the internet, like these like book groups and stuff, I don't know if we would find each other.
Well, I do wonder though, if we were honest about it. Like I was just at a park date and like somebody was like, oh, you like to read? And like another parent, I'm like, yeah, I like to read. Like, what do you like to read? I'm like, oh, romance and just like mystery, like because I don't come right out and be like, oh, this and that, like you don't want to scare them off. I want my kid to have another play date, like
right. You're like, I'll tell you over a glass of wine, okay?
Yeah. So it's like I wonder if we did more come out and be like, hey, I love these books, and advertise it. There might be someone else at that park or another mom that's like, hey, I'm interested in that. Like, you never know.
Probably, yeah. I feel like I can be more open with people, and I usually am. The only time I can't be, which is very awkward because I am a preschool teacher, is when they find out that I'm a very big book fan, and then they ask me, like in a professional sense, I can't be like, oh yeah, I'm listening to like some very intense romance. But I do say romance. I do say independent romance. I do say that, but I do have to be careful, like professionally. With being a teacher, they put too much onto teachers, I'll tell you. But with holding up an image or whatever. But other than that, like I'm pretty open with people. Like I said, I will try to lure people into the car and convert them. And it's worked. It's worked. But I did find out that somebody like lives like 5 minutes from me in one of these book groups before. So it is very, you know, and I do think there are people just spread out and we just don't know.
That's so cool. So wait,
yeah.
Facebook group or something?
Yeah, a Facebook author group. It was for like, you know how the authors have their Facebook groups with the fans are in there, and someone like just posted, hey, post where you live. So
That's so
like,
cool.
we always joke about like wearing our book merchandise at the grocery store. So it's cool. I like it. So I do think there are more people than we realize, especially with how big like these independent books are starting to get.
Right. Well, and that's kind of the weird thing where like I do have friends who are like, oh my God, I love audiobooks. What do you narrate? And I'm like, well, like mostly a lot of like dragon and vampire stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they're interested in that, then I'll be like, what would you recommend? And I'm like, okay, so like how kinky do we want to get here? Like what are we interested in?
Yeah.
No sex? Do you want some? I think it is. You have to be. It's a delicate thing, I guess, right?
It is. That's yeah. Sometimes I'll frame it like, did you enjoy 50 Shades of Grey? Would you like to go? Would you like to level up?
About unicorns.
Yeah. Are you horny for the horn?
Oh, I love it.
All that great series though. That narration and the Laurel Chase series is very. Oh, I just love it.
I'm like, who are you? Because I know her because I work through Audio Sorceress, so I don't know. I don't communicate with her. She's one of the only authors that I don't communicate with, and I'm like, like, where do you live? What do you do? Who are you?
Like, how did you come up with this? This is amazing. Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah. That's especially like, you know, it is always interesting when like some authors are very, you know, out there and open, and some are more shadowed. So yeah,
right.
That's interesting.
It's an interesting thing because I like some narrators that I know who have kids, they only do like the sexy stuff under like another name. And I'm like, do I have to like come up with a cool name now? Because like once the kid gets older, the preschool class is going to be like, I heard your mommy in my mommy's car.
I mean, as a preschool teacher, I approve.
Yeah, like I'm also listening. Cool.
Well, seriously, thank you for chatting with us because like, it's very surreal, and I've been a little nervous this whole time. So just letting you know.
Thank you guys. This is so fun. I never ever get to talk to anyone who listens. I mean, like my husband doesn't listen to anything, so like it's cool. It's like really fun to talk about books that I'm also reading. So this has been really fun for me as well. So thank you guys for having me on your show.
Yeah. You're welcome. I hope everyone enjoyed our chat with Vanessa, and go out and find some audiobooks you like and check out Vanessa's work as well because she's amazing.
Great backlog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay. And we'll see everybody next time at the Bookover. Bye.
Bye.